Hey folks, Ira here. I hope you had a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in for a special earthquake report where we are covering earthquake activity spanning from March the 18th through today, March the 20th. I thought you'd like to know that today is International Earth Proposal and my personal favorite, Extraterrestrial Abductions Day. So remember this, guys. When you wish someone a happy Extraterrestrial Abductions Day, you may want to prepare yourself for an epic tale of probing flash. We have certainly had a wild past few days. Let's go back to 1985 or Friday, March the 18th. We experienced 225 earthquakes, the strongest being a 6.2 that struck Atka, Alaska. That was particularly interesting as we had forecasted a 6.0 or greater striking the globe on this date using our forecast model. It is funny, really. I was just talking with the subscriber, Miss Sandy, that Friday night. I was convinced that the model had failed, and I had decided to spend the evening hiking with my brother. When I returned home, I was blown away when I discovered that Alaska had been struck with a 6.2. You can imagine the excitement. It will be interesting anyways to see how things pan out on the 23rd and the 28th. We'll speak more about this later in the video. Speaking of Atka, I think you guys will find this to be interesting. The highest point on Atka is Korovin, which is a volcano. Korovin last erupted in 2006. Interesting, eh? Anyways, this area, since the beginning of the month, has experienced over 91 earthquakes. The intensity of these earthquakes have also been intensifying as the month has drawn out. With that being said, we'll watch the area carefully over the next several weeks for additional seismic movement and possible volcanic activity. 4% of the earthquakes experienced on Friday fell within the magnitude 5 category. We saw the Solomon Islands shaking with a 5.1, Chichishima, Japan saw a 5.1 as well, and Papua New Guinea experienced a 5.3. California attempted to return to normal Friday, but failed to break the 100 earthquake mark. They topped out with 95, the strongest being a 3.1. What is interesting is that it was on this day in which we began to receive reports of a sulfuric odor emanating from the west coast. It's really difficult, though, to make sense of what is going on because no one is really speaking of it, at least the official news sources, that is. Individuals like Dutch Sense have been right on it, of course. With that being said, if you have information concerning this event, please let us know. I'd also like to know if it's still being experienced. Nevada had 34 earthquakes strike their state, the strongest being a 2.1, which struck Incline Village, which, by the way, is an absolutely beautiful place. It has an elevation of a little more than 6,300 feet, has a population of about 9,000, and it is known for being a tax haven for businesses and wealthy individuals from California and southern Nevada. True story. Anyways, we'll continue to monitor the state for increased activity. Oklahoma experienced 11 earthquakes, with the majority striking around our famous fracking operations in Fairview. The strongest actually rocked Moreland and Meeker, though. Both areas experienced a 3.0. My neighbors in Ridgely, Tennessee experienced an unusual earthquake Friday. This was a 1.5. Ridgely is about 460 miles from my location, which is in Boone, North Carolina. Anyways, it's good to see that the new Madrid seismic zone is still alive and kicking. Finally, Attica, New York experienced a 1.7. Some say that this is attributed to inmates from the Attica Correctional Facility working on their tunneling operation. That's pretty funny. Anyways, speaking of the prison system, did you know that David Berkowitz, or better known as the son of Sam serial killer, was stationed there during the 70s? It's true. Since the murders, Berkowitz claims to have found God, became a Christian, and states that he doesn't want to be paroled because he feels like he should pay for his sins. That's alright in my book. Okay, let's change gears and review yesterday's more interesting events. To start things off, we experienced another 6.0 in Atka, Alaska. The poor 61 individuals that populate the area must be loving that. Barbuda was struck with a 6.0 as well. This just so happens to be the most powerful earthquake this area has experienced in well over the past year. I've actually been waiting for a substantial earthquake like this to strike the area in the Virgin Islands, as the entire Caribbean plate has been reeling with activity over the past few months. Going back to Saturday's earthquake, we'll see a tsunami warning was sparked from this, depending on your information sources. Speaking of tsunami warnings, BP Earthwatch alerted everyone on Friday to a buoy off the coast of South Carolina that was presenting interesting readings. At one point, it was stating that waves greater of 100 feet were experienced. This was soon followed by dips of 100 feet below sea level. There has been all sorts of theories on this, actually. I personally chalk it up to being air with the station itself. Others have entertained the idea that a meteor struck the Atlantic. I question this, as surrounding buoys in the area did not register unusual activity. I would like to know your thoughts on this, though, folks. Middle America, care of El Salvador, experienced a 5.4, which was preceded by a 4.4. Chile experienced a 4.6, and the West Chile Rise was hit with a 4.9. This goes to show that the Ring of Fire is definitely quite active. Our pals in Indonesia experienced a 5.4, and Japan registered a 4.9. While we are in the area, we'll note that our comrades in Russia experienced a 4.7, and not to be left out, our good friends in Iran saw a 4.4. Oh, and Sweden, of all places, experienced a 4.1. If we look to California, we'll see that the earthquakes we experienced around the globe accomplished at least one thing. They hopefully alleviated pressure on the San Andreas Fault and the San Juan de Fuca Plate, as well as surrounding seismically hot locations. I say this because California only experienced 32 earthquakes Saturday, the most powerful being a 2.3 in Wasco. Now, remember moments ago when we discussed the uptick in Nevada? Well, get this, Nevada saw 55 earthquakes yesterday. Beatty saw 22 of them, and Incline Village experienced 17. Oregon finally woke up, at least for the time being anyways. Lakeview experienced 10, all were incredibly minor. The average magnitude was only a 0.8. Oklahoma saw 6, all of which were fairly substantial as they averaged a 2.6. The most powerful was a 3.0, which struck Perkins. Hopping across the border, we'll see that Kansas was struck with a 2.9 and Missouri with a 1.9. And finally, let's take a quick look at the earthquake activity we experienced today, March the 20th. It has been rather quiet. Comparatively speaking to what we experienced since Friday, we haven't had a single magnitude 5 or greater as of 4:30 Eastern Time. However, we have seen numerous earthquakes fall within the magnitude 4 category, the majority of which struck the Ring of Fire. Hachijojima clocked in at 4.6, Indonesia with a 4.5, Papua New Guinea with a 4.3, and Atka, Alaska was rocked by multiple aftershocks, just to name a few. We experienced a rather potent 4.4 that struck Hawaii today. Now that's interesting. By the way, I just looked out the window and discovered that it's snowing. That's pretty interesting too. Anyways, we have seen Alaska returning to normal levels today. So far, they have had only 28 clocked in. With that being said, if we look to California, we'll see that they too are returning to normal. They are trending to exceed 100 earthquakes today, as they are hovering right at 99 as of 4:30. Cobb has taken a beating with 22, and the most intense being several 3.1s. Oregon remains somewhat active. In fact, they experienced a 3.4 off the coast. That's interesting. Nevada has quieted down too. Only 18 clocked in so far, all of which were incredibly minor, the average magnitude being a 0.5. The remainder of the planet is quiet for now. But before we wrap things up, let's look at the forecast model. We see that we can expect a drastic reduction in earthquake intensity today, which I'm happy to report and excited to report has occurred. The most intense earthquake forecasted for today is around a 5.1. If we experience an earthquake of this magnitude, make certain to comment. I will definitely be just as excited as you. Anyways, after today, per our forecast model, we'll begin to see things ramp up until we could possibly see earthquakes once again exceed the magnitude 6 range on March the 23rd and the 28th. And that is it for the earthquake report. If you experienced an earthquake today, or if you'd like to chat about our forecast or anything else, please post down below. We'd like to hear from you. Make certain to like and subscribe. Share if you feel inclined. Also, if you like the social media thing, you can link to us via the standard allotted social sites in the description. We'll end this report with a video feed from our favorite star. Have a great night, guys. Hoorah!